meant to be. That changed my life. I went back to Charlotte and everything changed for me. I poured my heart and my body and my mind into being Miss USA. I ate, slept, breathed, dreamed, lived Miss USA every single day. Whether the task was small, whether it was big, whether it was somewhere in between, I did something every single day to get me one step closer to being Miss USA. To say yes to Miss USA, I had to fully commit. And I could not fully commit until I 100% believed that I would be Miss USA. Because I said yes to Miss USA, I had to say no to a whole lot of other things. I had to say no to hanging out with my friends because I had already said yes to doing what I needed to do to be Miss USA. I always had to say no to McDonald's because I had already said yes to getting in the best shape of my life to be Miss USA. I said no to any and everything that was going to pull me away from what I needed to do. Because before that, I wanted my cake and I wanted to eat too. And I learned that you can't go 50% here and 50% here. You can't spread yourself so thin because then you're going to be a whole mess in the middle when it all falls apart in the end. Tom Robbins says that there's a big difference between interest and commitment. When you're interested in something, then you'll do it when time permits. But when you're committed to something, you accept no excuses, only results. For me, there are no sacrifices in true commitment. Because you're going to do something if you want to do it. Now I love to tell stories, and I got a really good one. In the early 1500s, there was a young man by the name of Hernan Cortez. He went from law student to college dropout to becoming one of the most famous Spanish conquistadors in history. As soon as Christopher as the Dominican Republic at age 19. I don't know what we were doing at 19, but I can tell you that Del Tizano was not up there with New World exploration. 19 years old. 7 years later, he aided in the Spanish conquest of Cuba, set up shop there, became the mayor. But you know why I like Cortez so much? Is because even with all of the accolades and the reputation that he had built up, and all of the wealth and glory that had come to him in such a short and young amount of time, he was still hungry. He was still eager. A year after Mexico had been discovered, he knew that that was going to be his next conquest. Well, being that he is not the highest on the totem pole in the government in Cuba, he has to converse everything with Governor Velasquez. Now, Governor Velasquez is one of his buddies, along with all the other guys, and even though they get along really well, they're still in competition with each other. So he's not too keen on Cortez making a bigger name for himself. He spends months convincing Velasquez to even let him go on the mission. And when he finally agrees to drawing up all the paperwork for it, he gives him one stipulation that he can go, but it has to only be on trade relations. Please, that is not exactly what Cortez wanted. But he took it anyways, and he spent the next 2 months putting together his army and drawing out a plan for everything that he needed to do. And after a couple months went by, he went back to Velasquez and said, you know, I've been thinking. Never been there before, taking all these men, taking all these ships to go over there. If something should happen, I need a clause in my contract that states that in the best interest of the realm, I can take emergency measures. Boom. He gets the clause in his contract to basically say he can do whatever he wants once he gets there. A couple more months go by, he's getting all of his forces together, all of his artillery, all of the food and rations that they need. And through those months, he personally invests all of his fortune, all of the money that he ever acquired from the first 2 explorations, he plunks into this mission. That's how invested he was. But it still wasn't enough. So he goes back to Governor Velasquez for a 3rd cup and convinces Governor Velasquez to personally fund his money for the second half of the mission. A man that didn't even want to do it in the first place. Cortez was a persuasion genius. So much so that even on the very day that they were to set sail for Mexico, Governor Velasquez himself is standing right here on the docks, still trying to convince them not to go. But he was able to move forward anyways. The first place that they landed was Veracruz. And in Veracruz, Cortez met a local tribe and their leader. And in doing so, he learned of the Aztec Empire. Mind you, this man spent months and months and months and jumped over 1,000,000 hurdles and did not learn of the Aztec Empire until he got there. And in doing so, learned that he was outnumbered 300 to 1. But if he partners up with this local tribe and takes advantage of all their resources, maybe they can just take them over. Oh, but that's right, he still has ties to the Spanish crown. So if he partners up with them, he's in direct violation of his jurisdiction, which could lead to his imprisonment and his death. He's come all that way and worked that hard, and now his life literally is on the line. How much belief do you think he had in himself? He takes on the deal, partners with the local tribal leader, and in doing so, he knew that members of his own crew were going to be mad at him. He knew that their loyalties were still tighter to the crown than they were to him. So he had to do something fast. He didn't want a mutiny to break out. Now, some scholars like to say that he scuttled ships. Others say that he burned his ships. But after researching him, I can tell you that I believe he's the kind of man that wasn't just going to scuttle anything. I believe he burned it to the ground. Because there's no way you're going to convince me that after everything he had to jump through, after he personally invested all of his money, got his adversary to invest all of his money in it, that he was going to turn around or give his guys any option to overthrow him or retreat. There was no option. And because he took immediate action and burnt those ships, they were able to press forward. They utilized all of their resources once they got to Veracruz, and they were able to overthrow the Aztec Empire and develop what we know today as Mexico City. Now, how in the world does that apply to you? A bunch of very, very intelligent IT professionals. Well, I believe that we live in the greatest state in America, because I am one proud North Carolinian. And I believe that our UNC academic systems are among the best in the world. Our athletics are out of this world. Our scholarship programs are readily available. We have great academics, great student life, and if you stretch from the mountains to the beach, our scenery is second to none. Is that anybody and everybody around the world gets the opportunity to be a part of it and to learn more about it because of each and every one of you. The work that you do allows for anybody and everybody to have access to all the wonderful things that our state and our academic systems provide, because you demand excellence. But I'm telling you today that excellence isn't good enough anymore. Because I know that you can be extraordinary. those ships are more valuable than you think. Those ships, the reason he had to burn them is because they were their crutch. They could fall back on them. They became their security blanket, their handicap. Why are those ships so important? Because those ships make us complacent. Those ships keep us really comfortable at home, at work, in our communities, and at the conference every single year. If Cortez can burn the ships, why can't you? I'll tell you this. Donald Trump always said that every single deal that he has ever made has been a complete and utter nightmare. So much so that he's wanted to quit in the middle of all of them. That his investors, that the media, and even his colleagues have wanted him to call off deals. But deep down, in his gut, he knew that he could press forward. And because of it, he has built up the gold standard of what the Trump brand is today. Do you know he grew up in Brooklyn? His father was a very well-to-do investor in Brooklyn. And he said that every single day he would look across the river into Manhattan and he wanted to take that city. When I left Wilmington at 10 till 8 this morning, I was hugging on my heart, my 18-month-old little girl. If I am going to leave her for any amount of time, it has to be well worth it to me. Someone once told me, what would you do if you had 30 seconds left to live? You know what? There is not enough money in the world, not enough money in China, that could buy me any more time with my daughter. How valuable is your time? How precious is it? All of you are here for a reason. All of you have said no to the things that are most important and most precious in your life. To be here for what? To get the same thing out of it you got last year? Or do you want to leave here on Thursday better, stronger, and wiser, so that you can go back in your homes, in your communities, and in your jobs, and start making a difference in the lives of somebody else? Zig Ziglar always said, if you help enough people get what they want, you'll get what you want in return. So how important are those ships? If you don't burn them, you'll go home the same way that you came. But if you do, I'm telling you, whether you are a Miss USA or a New World Exploration, or heck, if you want to be the next Steve Jobs, there's absolutely nothing that will stand in your way from throwing excellence out the door and starting today with being extraordinary. This is your moment. But it's up to you what you choose to do with it. Thank you again so much for having me. It has been a true pleasure to be here. I hope to get to meet some of you before the day's end and enjoy your conference this week. Thank you.